My friends, if you haven't been shown the symbolism in these feasts in which most gather from it, it's that of these first feasts begin in the spring, and that is the Feast of Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, all begin in the spring. And then we see in the fall, after a time, these Feasts of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacle. Now, of course, the entire story of history since Christ is laid out in these feasts. All the Old Testament was pointing towards these times, and these feasts are perfect showings of this. First of all, you got the Passover, the death of Christ. Then you have unleavened bread being the burial of Christ. Then you have the first fruits being the resurrection occurring a couple of days after the Passover had transpired. So that's the resurrection on the third day is where most interpret that. And then we have Pentecost, which is the beginning of the church once again. And then we have this time in which we would see ourselves, which is that of the church age, 2,000-year mark. And that's at the time of the summer harvest. And now we see in the fall the Feast of Trumpets, which we view as the rapture. And then we see the Day of Atonement being his second coming. They'll mourn for him. They'll look upon him in whom they have pierced on that day. And then we see finally the glorious Feast of Tabernacle, in which the tabernacle, representing the place where God resides, being that in which Christ now settles his kingdom upon the world. And once again, in the Old Testament, the primary promise to the Israelites and to the Jews more specifically is that of the millennial kingdom, how they would be set up and established above all their foes. And that is when it finally occurs, this millennial reign.